you guys had lots of fun today. What did you love about today? What did you guys do today? You did? Yes, Esty. You love the water slides? What did you like, Esty? You did the juggling show? Amazing, amazing. Okay, so even though children, every day at camp, we have so much fun. Like today you had water slides and you had Yossi balloons come and make with you a whole juggling show, plus you juggled yourself. We can't have a day without what? What do we have to do every single day? Like Torah learning and davening and giving. So we make sure that every time our days are filled with these 3 mitzvot. So, like I taught you yesterday, girls, this week's parasha is a double parasha. I'm sorry, darling, Elishava and Rivka, sweethearts. It's Maura, can you help her, darling? They're a little noisy. Maybe they want to sit apart. Sorry. Okay, thank you, girls, for being quiet. We learned how it's a double parasha. Anyone remember the name of the parasha I taught you yesterday? Chukat, good. It's Chukat and Balak. In Chukat, we learned how Hashem commanded the Jewish people about the mitzvah of keeping the para aduma, and about how Miriam and Avia passed away, and what stopped?
The water.
Right, and Hashem told Moshe and Aaron to talk to the rock, but instead what did they do? They hit the rock, and then Hashem told them, now you can't go away. You can't go into Israel. And then Aaron HaKohen passed away, and what vanished when Aaron passed away? Who remembers?
The clouds.
Excellent. The clouds passed away, and the Amalekim came, but instead of dressing up like Amalekim, they got dressed up like? Excellent. They wanted to confuse the Jewish people, but instead the Jewish people davened to Hashem. They said, Hashem, whoever our enemy is, just save us. They knew that the power of the Jewish people is in our tefillot. And what did Hashem do? What happened that they were saved? The Amalekim soldiers were hiding in the rocks, in the 2 big mountains. What did Hashem do? Anyone remember? Excellent. That Hashem made an earthquake. He caused the whole 2 mountains to crash together, and Hashem got rid of all the Jewish people's enemies. And at the end of Parshat Chukat, the Jewish people grumble and complain because they see that they're not going directly into the land of Israel, but again they're circumventing around, and they started to grumble and complain. And what came and bit them? Who remembers? What came to bite? Snakes. And Hashem says, I can't find my map. Okay, never mind. Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, make what? Make a stick with what on it? A snake, and put it, and let the Jewish people look at it. Whoever will look at it will become well. But when they were looking up at the snake, what were they really looking at? Hashem. Meaning they were remembering Hashem. When they were looking up at the sky, and they was davened to Hashem to be saved, and Hashem saved them. That was Parashat Chukat. But this week's parasha, how many parashiot do we have this week?
2.
Excellent. The second parasha is Parshat Balak, children. Oh, here's my map. The Jewish people had come out of Egypt. I'll bring it a little closer, girls, so you can see. They came out of Egypt, and they were supposed to travel straight into the land of Israel. Instead, they traveled 40 years around the desert. I'm sorry, Maura, I think those 2 need to take the fan away, maybe. And but thank you for listening so nicely, Amuna. Excellent. And they were about to go into, after 40 years of traveling in the desert, they were about to go into the land of Israel. Now, there was right there in the land, near the land of Bashan, where Og Melech Bashan was, at the bottom down here. I'm going to show you. Girls, can you see the map?
Yes.
Okay. So the Jewish people fought a big war. They killed the giant Og Melech Bashan, and they conquered all these lands. They were leaving this land down here, Moab. They were leaving them alone. But the king of Moab, his name was Balak. Balak, instead of saying, oh, good, they're leaving me alone, he said, 1 minute, the Jewish people were going to the land of Israel, and they're going to conquer the land of Israel. I don't want the Jews to be my neighbors. And besides, I promised the 7 nations in the land of Israel that I'll be their ally. I'll protect them. And so he says, I'm going to go fight against the Jewish people. But he said, I don't know. How come these Jewish people are so strong? Their leader, Moshe, is so powerful. He destroyed the mighty our nation of Egypt. Egypt was the greatest power of those days. And he said, 40 years ago, Moshe destroyed them. I wonder what was his strength. And he said, I know, I'll go and find out. I'll find out from the people of Midian. Because Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was a young lad and he had to run away from Egypt, what country did he run to?
Midian.
Right, who did he meet in Midian that he married her? The excellent Moshki Tzipora. So he goes to the Chachamim and to the wise people of Midian, and he says, wise people of Midian, how come Moshe is so powerful? He's such a strong warrior. Where did he train to be such an incredible soldier? And they said, oh, King Balak, you're making a huge mistake. Moshe's power isn't in his hands and swords. His power is in his mouth, in talking. Hakol kol Yaakov. The voice is the voice of Yaakov. The Jewish people's power isn't in swords and in bows and arrows. Their power is in Hashem, in praying and turning to Hashem Chayale. Right? So he says, oh, what should I do then? And they said to him, you know what? Just like Hashem gave the Jewish people a great prophet called Moshe Rabbeinu, who could talk to Hashem. Here in Midian, we have a great prophet who could talk to Hashem. His name is Bilam. Now, King Balak knew of Bilam very well. Actually, Balak himself was originally from Midian too. And he said, 1 minute, I know Bilam very well. Bilam predicted that I'm going to become king of Moab. And I did, even though I was just a little kind of unimportant prince. I wasn't even a big prince. I was just like kind of a little mayor of sorts. And yet I got elected as king. I got crowned king. He says, I'm going to go to send messages to Bilam. Children, Bilam was, just like Hashem gave the Jewish people a prophet, who was Moshe Rabbeinu, who could talk to Hashem. Hashem gave the Goyim a prophet too. That it's not, that they shouldn't say, oh, well, if we had a prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu, we'd be so wonderful too. So Hashem gives them a prophet whose name was Bilam. I actually used my pirate puppet because Bilam, in fact, was missing one eye. He had a patch over one eye. So I'm using my pirate. But he says, I'm going to send messages and I'm going to ask him to go and curse Lo Aleinu, the Jewish people, to pray that bad things should happen to them. And so he sent some ministers, some of his soldiers. I'm going to use my soldiers I used before. And a bunch of soldiers from both the countries of Moab and Midian. Both come, and they come to Bilam, and they say, oh, Bilam, King Moab sent us. I'm from the country of Moab. I'm from the country of Midian. And we want to hire you. We'll pay you lots of money to hire you to go and curse the Jewish people. Darling, we'll take comments at the end, darling. Okay, sweetie? You had a question, sweetheart? Rivka Aziz. What, darling?
It's about...
Okay, very quick, darling. Go on, because we're running out of time, sweetie.
If they say to pray to Hashem that the bad things should happen to the Jewish people, Hashem will never do that because Hashem is on the Jewish people's side.
You're right, Rivka. You're right, Neshamale. That's so smart of you. We're going to go through the story. They didn't know that, though. And they said, we want you to curse the Jewish people. Yeah, we're bringing lots of money. We'll pay you, we'll hire you. And Bilam said, okay, you have to sleep here tonight. Sleep, and then while I'm sleeping, God, Hashem, will come to me in my sleep and will talk to me. And immediately it says, actually, children, that the messages from the country of Midian, they were smarter than those from the country of Moab. And they said, this is never going to work. If he's got to ask the God of the Jewish people permission to curse them, It's never going to work, but I'll stay the night and see what happens. And he had to admit, Bilam, who claimed that he was so mighty and he was so great, had to admit that he's in Hashem's power. He can't do anything unless Hashem gives him permission. And he goes to sleep at night, and Hashem appears to Bilam. And Hashem comes to Bilam and he tells him, Bilam, who are these people who are in your house? Now, do you think Hashem knew who they were?
Yeah.
Yes. Hashem didn't want to scare Bilam, because if Hashem would tell him, why did you let such people into your house to come and curse the Jewish people? Bilam might get very scared and say, oh no, Hashem's angry with me, I am so scared. So not to scare Bilam, Hashem told him, who are these people who've come to your house? Of course Hashem knew. Hashem knows everything. But Bilam, who was a horrible Rasha, terrible man, said, if Hashem doesn't know who they are, maybe I'll be able to trick Hashem into cursing the Jewish people. Yay! And he became very heartened and felt very confident. And he said, oh, they are the ministers of the countries of Moab and the country of Midian. And what he was trying to say, he was very proud. He was saying, maybe God, you don't think a lot of me. Maybe you think I'm a wicked Rasha. But in the eyes of big nations, the eyes of countries like Midian and Moab, who back then were like big superpowers, they were like huge countries, I'm very important. And Hashem said, what does he want from you? Hashem said, no, I can't remember the exact pasuk, sorry. Either way, Hashem tells him, you are not going to curse the Jewish people. I don't let. They're my people. They're my children. It's like somebody, God forbid, coming to somebody's father and saying, give me permission to curse your son or to make bad things happen to your son. No father would ever allow that. And Hashem says, I don't let you to go. And Bilam woke up in the morning and he said, even if you give me all the money in the world, I cannot go without getting permission from Hashem. And what he was really saying, children, was, he was telling them, you should give me all the money in the world. If you needed to hire an army with soldiers and with bows and arrows, maybe they'll win, maybe they won't win. But if I curse, everybody knows when I open my mouth, whatever I predict happens. So he really was extremely greedy, children. And that morning, the soldiers and the messengers from the country of Midian left. They said, he's a waste of time. This is never going to work. And the soldiers from the country of Moab went back to King Balak. And they said, King Balak, Bilam said he can't come with us. Meaning, maybe we are not such important ministers. Maybe if you send more important ministers with more money, tempting him, maybe then he'll agree to come. And so, children, the next night, King Balak sends even more important, the greatest of the great in his nation. Girls, darling, I love the way the girls in the back are sitting so quietly. Thank you. I'm sure the girls in the front can do that too, right? Okay, sitting quietly without interrupting. Thank you. And he said, go tell Bilam, I'll give him even more money. And so they arrive again. And they come again to Bilam's house. And they said, King Balak sent us to ask you to come curse the Jewish people. We're even more important. We are even greater messengers. And he'll give you even more money. And Bilam again said, okay, let me go to sleep. And that night, Hashem appeared to him and he said, you evil, wicked man, the Jewish people are my people. I don't let them to get cursed. But if you want to go, go. But you will only say the words that I put into your mouth. Children, Bilam got so excited. He woke up in the morning, yay, this is amazing. And he runs to go and harness his own donkey, like to put the saddle on the donkey so he could drive. Now, children, it was synonymous with the same thing, like imagine President Trump would want to go somewhere and would get so excited to go that he would run to take his car and put his own gas in the car, or something like he wouldn't. He has bodyguards and he has people who work for him, who take care of him, right? Our big president doesn't go and pump the gas himself. And when you have to harness a donkey, it was much worse than pumping the gas today. Donkeys are stinky and they're dirty and you need to clean them and you need to... But Bilam, in his hatred for the Jewish people, was so excited that he went to harness his own donkey. And Hashem tells him, Bilam, you wicked evil man, you think that I'm going to let you curse the Jewish people because you woke up early in the morning to harness your donkey? There was a man before you who was very great, who harnessed his donkey to do the will of Hashem. Who knows who that was?
Avram.
Oh, don't call out. But yes, Mushki, was that what you were going to say? Excellent. Avram Avinu. Mushki, you tell us. When did Avram Avinu harness his own donkey? Do you remember when? Boker, right. Excellent. Vayashkem Avram Boker. What was he going to do? What did Hashem tell him to do? Right. Beautiful. Either way, and Bilam is riding his donkey. And the soldiers, the important ministers from King Balak, are following with him to meet Balak at the edge of where all the Jewish people's tents are. They were all encamped in the desert. And to curse the Jewish people. And as he rides, children, on his donkey, all excited to Rahman and go and curse the Jewish people, the donkey sees, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot my sword. Okay, well, I had a bow and arrow, didn't I? Yeah. I had a big sword, I forgot to bring it. But the donkey sees, I'm going to use the bow and arrow, but it was actually a sword. So just pretend it's a sword. The donkey sees the Malach of Hashem. Malach, I believe maybe Malach Michael, but don't remember, I'm sorry. And the Malach had a drawn sword pointing towards Bilam to kill Bilam. Because Hashem didn't want Bilam to come and curse the Jewish people. And the donkey sees it, but not Bilam and not the other people. And so they're walking on a long path between a big field. And what does the donkey do? As the donkey is driving with Bilam on top, the donkey steers off the path. Instead of staying on the path where he was supposed to be, the donkey starts to go off into the green grass of the field. He goes in the wrong direction. And Bilam gets livid. He is all gung-ho, excited to go and hurt the Jewish people. And he had a big stick in his hand. I'm so sorry. I brought everything before I lost it. Okay, never mind. I'll use my pen. He takes his stick and he hits the donkey. And so the donkey has no choice. And the donkey goes back into the path and continues walking. And then a little later down the path, the donkey sees now they're traveling in a pathway that's kind of between two walls, girls. There were two walls, one wall on this side and one wall on that side. So it was like a narrow pathway between two walls. Can you see? So there was like one wall here, one wall there. Just a little hard with the things. And they were in the middle between the two walls. And as they're walking, all of a sudden, again, Malach Hashem, the angel of Hashem, appears with a drawn sword in his hand, ready to kill Bilam. And so what does the donkey do? The donkey doesn't want to go forward, because he's going to hit right into the Malach. And so the donkey, with Bilam on top of him, and his legs dangling down, goes and he crushes against the wall. He goes and he squeezes himself to the wall like this, so that he doesn't have to go forward. Couldn't go forward because in front of him there was the Malach. He couldn't go to the sides because there was a wall on this side and a wall on that side. And children, Rashi tells us that why did Hashem do this? Bilam, children, was actually a descendant of Lavan. Lavan, who was Yaakov's father-in-law, the father of Rachel and Leah, but actually was Lavan good or bad? Anybody knows? He was bad. And he wanted to kill his own grandchildren. He was terrible. He wanted to kill Yaakov and all his descendants. But in the end he doesn't, because an angel of Hashem appears to Lavan and tells him, you cannot hurt Yaakov and his kids. But what happens is, so we're going to pretend this is Yaakov and this is Lavan. We're just going to use it as a pretending. When Yaakov and Lavan meet, when Yaakov runs away from Lavan, they say, we're going to make a treaty to promise that we never fight together for all generations. You won't attack me and I won't attack you. And for commemoration, to remember, they built a gal avanim, a big wall, like a monument, to stand commemoration that they're not going to fight. Bilam, children, was a descendant of Lavan. The Jewish people are descendants of Yaakov. So when they came by the wall, Hashem was sending a message to Bilam. Remember, Lavan promised that you're not going to fight with each other. You're going to leave the Jews alone. But Lavan, even though he knew that, Bilam. Even though Bilam knew that, Bilam couldn't care. And he gets livid because when the donkey crashes against the wall, it crushes Bilam's foot, his leg. And now his leg's completely squashed and he's in so much pain. And he takes his stick and he hits the donkey again. And the donkey has no choice and has to keep going. And so with Bilam on top of him, the donkey keeps on moving forward. But as he walks forward, again, who's standing in front of him?
The malach.
What does the malach have in his hand?
A sword.
A sword. And he sees the sword, and the donkey has nowhere to go. There's no field to the side. He can't go to the walls like he did before. And so what does the donkey do? The donkey just sits on the floor and doesn't move. And Bilam takes his stick. He starts to scream at the donkey. He says, you silly donkey, if only I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you. You horrible donkey, I wish I had a sword. Now, who heard this, children? All the ministers. Remember the ministers that come? They were behind. And they start to laugh. And they poke fun at him and they say, look at this man. He claims that he is a big prophet, that he could kill an entire nation with his mouth. Yeah, and one little donkey he can't kill without a sword. And they started to laugh and laugh at Bilam, children. And Bilam gets very embarrassed. But at that point, the donkey opens his mouth. And the donkey says, why do you keep hitting me? Haven't I served you well? I was always there for you, for whatever you wanted. All your evil schemes and bad things you needed the donkey for, I was always there for you. Why have you hit me? Now, instead of Bilam going and saying, oh, I can't believe a talking donkey. Oh, that's amazing. He still couldn't think straight. The other people were mesmerized and beyond flabbergasted that the donkey could talk. But he said, well, you don't listen to me already. Why do you keep going up the path and not walking? And the donkey said, look ahead of you. And at this point, Hashem opened Bilam's eyes, and he sees the malach of Hashem with the drawn sword in his hand. And he gets shocked. And the malach talks to him now. And he says to him, why do you keep hitting your donkey? The donkey was just trying to protect you. Maybe I should take my sword and kill you and save the donkey. And Bilam suddenly said, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm going home. I won't go curse the Jews. But the malach of Hashem said, no. You so wanted to go. Whatever way you want to go, from heaven they'll let you go. You decided you want to go, so go. but only the words Hashem will put into your mouth. That's what you are going to say. And so he continues, this time somewhat ashamed and embarrassed, but still very hopeful. He knew that if the Jewish people sinned and did bad, they would be cursed. And King Balak meets him and he says, yay, so wonderful to meet you, Bilam. Oh, wonderful. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So pleased to meet you. And he says, come, where should we go? And he says, okay, let's go look at where the Jewish people are. And they come and they look at all of the tents. And he says, you have to bring me a lot of cows and bulls to bring up as a sacrifice. I think it was bulls, children, for Hashem. And they were very careful. You know, he had a lot. I'm going to use my 7 fat cows and 7 skinny cows from Parshas Miketz. But he looks around his cows and his sheep and his bulls. Then he finds the fattest and the juiciest ones. And he brings it up as a korban for Hashem.
Why?
Yeah, actually, children, it sounds strange, but Bilam understood that in order to get Hashem to look at you favorably and to accept your prayers, you need to pray. Back then, instead of prayers, they used to bring up sacrifices. We don't bring up sacrifices today. We don't have the Bet HaMikdash. But he brought up sacrifices to pray to Hashem. Oh, please, Hashem, let me curse the Jewish people. And he opens his mouth, children, and he looks at the Jewish people's tents, and he sees that the entrances to the tents didn't face each other, that they were in separate directions, so that, I don't know where my tents were, sorry guys, so that they wouldn't peek into each other's houses, so that they were not like, everybody had their own private space. They were very tsanua. You know, in Hebrew, we say that you should be tsanua, to be tzniastic, comes from the word, in English they translate it modest, but it's not a true translation. Tzniut, tzniastic literally means to create a private space, that nobody should infringe on another person's boundaries, that we have to give every person their personal space, so to speak, and not to step on other people's privacy. And so he opens his mouth, and instead of saying bad things, he starts to bless and bless and bless. And he says the famous words you daven every morning, Ma Toivu. Continue it. Do you know it? Halecha Yaakov. Right. Ma Tovu Halecha Yaakov. How beautiful are your tents, the children of Yaakov. Mishkanotecha Yisrael. Your homes. Those of you who are children of Israel, the Jewish people. And he blesses. And Balak gets mad at him. And he says, what did you do? Why did you say good things about the Jews? That they're wonderful. I told you to curse the Jewish people. And Bilam said, maybe we'll go somewhere else. I know somewhere I could see into the future. Bilam could see into the future, children. And he saw that in the future, from the Shevet of Dan, that the Jewish people would create an idol. And so they decided, let's go to the place where in the future the Jewish people would make an idol. Maybe there Hashem will be angry because Hashem knows in the future they're going to do sins. And so they go to another place. And again, children, 3 times over, they tried going to different places. They kept bringing up cows and bulls as sacrifices to Hashem. But every time, instead of saying good things, instead of saying bad things, Baruch Hashem, they only said good things. And in fact, Bilam tells us the very, very famous prophecy. It's one of the first prophecies in the Torah, which goes, Darach kochav miYaakov vekam shevet miYisrael. That's the prophecy. You know what he prophesied is going to happen? Yeah. Excellent. That Mashiach is going to come. And the Jewish people are going to bring Mashiach for the whole world. And are going to reveal Hashem in this world and connect the whole world with Hashem. And are going to cling to the Torah Hashem gave them. And they're not going to change it. And they're going to stay strong Jews till the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. And Balak was very angry with them. And it says actually, children, that Balak got so angry that he clapped his hands like, what did you do? Again, you bless the Jewish people. And 3 times, Bilam blesses the Jewish people. Balak gets very, very angry. And he goes, you didn't help me. You blessed instead of cursed. Ha! I'm going away. I'm not even going to give you money. Instead, I'm going to be angry with you. And he left without giving him a penny. The end of the parasha, children, actually is somewhat sad, but it is connected with next week, because in the end of the parasha, we're going to learn that wicked Bilam comes to Balak and he tells him, 1 minute, you want to curse the Jewish people, you've got to get them to sin. You've got to get them to marry Goyish girls who are going to get the men to sin. So, but I don't want to teach it today because the parasha has been long, and it's actually connected with next week's parasha, which is Pinchas, okay? We've done a lot of parasha this week, so we're going to learn it next week. But we're going to stop at this part of the parasha where Bilam blesses the Jewish people and predicts and prophesies the coming of Mashiach. Yes, Hadassah, darling, what is it? Girls, you sat so nicely. Thank you. Yes, darling.
Why did Bilam bless the Jewish people?
Hashem wanted him to. He told him, whatever words you put into my mouth, into your mouth, whatever words Hashem will put into his mouth, he had to say. And children, although Bilam was a bad person, but he was a very spiritual person who could tell the future. Not all spiritual people are good, but they also have powers in their mouth. So he had a lot of power, and his power was, instead of used for bad, Hashem forced him to use it for good. Yes, Esti, what is it, my darling? Yes.
From the donkey pushed to the wall, did the donkey get her own?
Oh, Esti Maccabi, excellent question, children. Esti Maccabi is asking basically what happened to the donkey. And I forgot to teach it, and thank you to remind me. Shh. Ariella, darling, Amuna, shh. 1 second. I know, my love. 1 second, we finished almost. You listened so nicely, sweetheart. Children, when they finished, the Malach, actually, kids, did something that's going to sound very sad. He took his sword and the Malach killed the donkey. And we're told for 2 reasons. Number 1, because had he kept the donkey alive, everybody would say, whoa, look at that donkey. A talking donkey. A donkey that talks like a human being. And they would worship it. They would have turned him into a deity, into an idol. And Hashem said, I'm not going to let them. They're going to think it's a wondrous donkey. It wasn't really a wondrous donkey. It was Hashem put words in his mouth in order to serve him. So that was one thing, so that people shouldn't start worshipping the donkey. But there's another reason, children, and it's a very profound reason. Was Bilam good or bad?
Bad.
He was very, very bad. Now, when the donkey was doing what he did, and Bilam said to him, if only I had a sword in my hand, I would have killed you. What happened? The other ministers, what were they doing? They started to laugh at him, right? And at that point, even though Bilam was very bad, he became very, very ashamed, embarrassed. He was very embarrassed, especially once the donkey opened his mouth. The Torah is teaching us, children, that you must never, ever embarrass another person, even somebody as evil and as bad as Bilam. Had the donkey stayed alive, wherever the donkey would have gone, people would have pointed and said, ha ha, that's the donkey that shamed Bilam. And they'd remember the embarrassment and shame of Bilam, and they would keep poking fun at Bilam. Children, the Torah tells us that poking fun or embarrassing and shaming another human being, even somebody as evil and wicked as Bilam, is completely asur, is completely not allowed. And so Hashem kills the donkey so that Bilam should not get embarrassed anymore. And if Hashem does that for the sake of protecting somebody as evil as Bilam, how much more so, children, do we need to be careful with each other, to always talk kindly and nicely to one another, and to be extremely careful to never, never, ever shame or embarrass each other. Guys, you were a great class to teach. Love you guys. You listened so nicely. Thank you so much.